grew up in a church that left me with a bad taste in my mouth for church. Because we just go to church and it was something you did because you had to do it. I don't know if I ever heard the gospel clearly presented. I never saw a person come to Christ. I don't know if I ever saw a life changed because of it. It was just plain boring, and out of that, and much of what we do here is in reaction to that. Because to be honest with you, I just plain don't have the time or the interest to be involved in just doing church. And that didn't make any sense then. It doesn't make any sense now. I want to be a part of a place where God is moving in powerful ways. I want to be in a place where God is invited to work, and He is, in fact, working. When I came to Christ, I started reading the Bible, and I started reading in the book of Acts, and I read about the church. I went to the pastor, and I said to him, I'm reading about the church. I love this. It's exciting. And now look at what we're doing. And it's the opposite of that. And he said to me, Woody, you can't expect the church to be like it was then. As close to prophetic as I ever got, this is what I said. If I can't be a part of a church like the one I read about in Acts, I don't see the point. I want to be out there on the edge where God is moving. I want to be in a place where God is invited to work, and He is, in fact, working.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Blue Ridge. We're so glad that you are here today. If you'll go ahead and stand with us, we're going to start off the morning by singing as an act of worship to Jesus. There is no shadow that has ever come against your light, and there is no rival that could ever stand against your might. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won, but we've already won. There is no weapon that has ever laid a mark on you. There is no army with the power to conquer truth. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won, oh, you've already won. Show me one thing He can't do. Show me a mountain He can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters He can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. There is a kingdom that's advancing at the speed of light, and in His kingdom, every dead thing is bound to rise. Oh God, our Redeemer, He is faithful to revive. Oh, He will revive. So show me one thing He can't do. Show me a mountain He can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters You can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. Yeah. All right, guys, put your hands together. Here we go. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I I sing out your name. A victory dance, I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance, I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance, I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment. Show me one thing he can do. Show me a mountain he can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. In Jesus' name, anything's possible.
You make it easy to love you. You are good and you are kind. You bring joy into my life. You make it easy to trust you. You have never left my side. You've been faithful every time. All I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, and nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Oh Jesus, you came to my rescue and took my place upon that cross. You redeemed what I had lost. Now my whole world revolving around you. You're the center of my life. You're the treasure, you're the prize. All I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me. Oh, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me. Oh, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me. Oh, all I want is you. gather together in your name this morning. And we're so grateful that you have caused our eyes to see you and our hearts to be able to respond to you, that we get the privilege of gathering together. And I pray that that would be our prayer this morning as we come to hear from you, to learn from you, to be moved by your Spirit, God, that we could authentically, truthfully say, God, we will follow you anywhere, no matter the cost, because you alone are worthy and you're worth it. So we give you this morning, we give you praise, honor, and glory that only you deserve. And we just ask that you would meet us here. And it's in your name that we ask this. Amen. Thank you all. Can have a seat.
It shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. Even on the male and female servants, in those days, I will pour out my Spirit.
Well, welcome to Blue Ridge Community Church. My name's Jeremy. I'm one of the pastors here at Blue Ridge, and I just want to say a special welcome to those that are streaming our service online, those that are watching at our Bedford campus, and for those of you guys who are here at New London. We're glad that we could come together this morning. So, a couple of weeks ago, I let you guys know that my family and I, we had just gotten back from a month-long trip out west of camping and touring and hiking and all sorts of stuff out west. And it was by far the longest vacation I've ever taken. And so, like you can imagine, I didn't know what to expect coming back into the office. I didn't know the amount, I didn't know what to expect when it came to the emails, the text messages, the meetings, the things that I needed to follow back up on that happened while I was gone. I'd never been gone that long. I didn't have a category for what I was going to experience. So when we got back, wouldn't surprise you, that there was definitely stuff. But I think the thing that surprised me the most, the thing that actually encouraged and excited me about my first couple of weeks since we were gone and being back, was just the sheer amount of stories of how God is working, and stories of the ways that what he's doing through his church, specifically this community of faith, Blue Ridge Community Church. And stories like, things like, it was a Tuesday after we got back, and Dave Kuntz, one of the teachers here, he's not on staff, but he's one of the teachers you'll see up here from time to time, serves on the parking team. He called me up that Tuesday night and said, "Hey, Jeremy, do you know that the Agape Center this Friday is having their first baptism?" And I did know. And Agape Center, if you're not aware, it's an organization that we partner with. It was actually an organization was birthed out of a dream that God gave, a vision that God gave to a longtime Blue Ridger named Tabitha North, to serve some of the most underserved people through the giving of themselves, that they were going to display God's love through the giving of themselves and their resources to this community. And he said, "Jerry, do you know that's a baptism's happening?" I had no idea. So on that Friday, I got to show up 8 o'clock in the morning outside of the Agape Center, and I got to see 4 people baptized. And here's the really cool part about the 4 people that were baptized. 2 of them were actual clients, people that they serve, and 2 of them were people that were serving. 2 of them that were volunteers that were a part of serving this community. And I love just the picture of the church that I got to experience that Friday morning outside of the Agape Center. Then that next morning, after Dave called me Tuesday night, it was Wednesday morning, I got a text message from Steve Foster, one of the elders here at Blue Ridge who attends our Bedford campus. And and he is actually a group text message to all of the elders, and he included this photo here. And this is a photo of 20 or so kids, primarily Spanish-speaking kids. And this is in a trailer park in Roanoke, Virginia, that is primarily a Spanish-speaking trailer park, but mostly Spanish-speaking families live there. And what you see going on here is Blue Ridgers. Blue Ridgers like Carlos and Beatrice, who attend the Bedford campus, who are originally from Colombia. And so their native language, the language they grew up with, was obviously Spanish. And God's using them and other people over there not to wait for those kids and those families to come to us, because there's a whole multitude of reasons why they wouldn't, whether it's distance or it's language barrier, and they're being the church in their community there. Which is, I just loved seeing that. Or that was Wednesday morning that Steve texted us that. Wednesday evening, I'm sitting with a group of people that I'm meeting with on a regular basis. We're praying through these whole idea of dreams and visions, what God wants to birth inside of us and through us. And this guy, Than, he was there sharing this night. He was a guy that had attended Blue Ridge for multiple years. And then a handful of years ago, God moved him away to Georgia, to Clarkston. I think it's Clarkston County, maybe a city too, I can't remember. But in there, it's in this 1 square mile of Clarkston, you have the most diverse square mile in all of the United States. It's this place that God is bringing people from all over the world, all sorts of refugees and things like that, people like that, all to this one place. And God has been birthing in him, and he has this vision and this heart for reaching those people. And so they have stories of Muslims coming to Christ. They have stories of walking in and groups starting with Nepali people and Hindu people and Buddhist people there in these apartment complexes in this very diverse area in Georgia. I got to just listen to him, this Blue Ridger, and for him to say, hey guys, this is stuff that God was doing in me in my time at Blue Ridge. And it was from there I got to hear other stories like we were sitting in our BRT meeting, and I heard the BR Kids staff members, they were talking about how they had been praying for months for God to send servers, people to serve our kids on a Sunday morning, because basically since opening back up, they've been running off of a skeleton crew back there, and they're basically still in that place. And so they just through prayer, they've been praying for this, and over the last several weeks, God has sent over a dozen people to sign up to be a part of serving kids back there. And again, while there's still more needs, they were just blown away that in the summertime, they never have that many people sign up to serve. They've never had it in the history of us as a church, and that God was moving in that way. Or Tuesday night, I heard of a group of women from Blue Ridge who, with another partner of ours, the Blue Ridge Pregnancy Center, these women had this heart for throwing a baby shower for these women that were being served through the Blue Ridge Pregnancy Center. These women that were in this chaotic season of life were choosing to walk this out, keep their babies, and walk out what this might look like in their lives. Here were a group of followers of Jesus from Blue Ridge that were saying, we love you, we see you, and we want to serve you. I mean, it was even just from stories, and I could list even more, but there was even stories from like the buildings that we own. Many of you guys know, you've been on this journey with us long enough, that a couple years ago, we purchased a shopping center in Bedford for our Bedford location, the Westgate Shopping Center there. And the odd thing about the Westgate Shopping Center when we purchased it was of the 140,000 square feet, we purchased about 115,000 of it. But there was this one 25,000 square foot section in the middle that was owned by a different family than what we were purchasing it from. And so we didn't purchase that at the time. But when we were retrofitting the Bedford space to become the building that would house spaces for the church to meet in and things like that, they approached us about buying that 25,000 square feet. And at the time they wanted like $350,000 for this 25,000 square feet, which was more than a fair price. But at the time we just didn't need it, didn't really have the finances to spend that kind of money on it. So we passed. Well, as we've told you guys, over this last year, God provided a way in which we were able to purchase that same building for only $88,000. And God's continued to do this amazing thing. So at the beginning of 2021, after we finished retrofitting all of the Westgate Shopping Center, the space where the Bedford campus meets, we knew that there were grants because of how Bedford is zoned as a town in the state of Virginia to encourage businesses and people to bring in jobs and to invest into commercial real estate. There's grants that the state of Virginia can offer out if you've spent the money in that region, in that area. So at the beginning of 2021, we started to apply for those grants and see what would happen. We found out we were eligible for up to like $100,000. Well, while I was gone for the 30 days on vacation, we got approved for the grant, and the money was deposited in our account. And guess how much the money was? $88,000. 88,000. I know, yeah. I mean, just... I told my wife, I said, I think it would have been less impressive if God would have given us a full 100,000 because it was so just like these pictures of like, I know we're in this season of change and things are moving in different directions, but it was just all these different stories of the ways in which God is beginning to work. And so I came back and just super encouraged by all the stories I was hearing. You guys know that, especially in light of where we are as a church, that we've been talking about this whole idea that God, we feel like God is inviting us to go someplace new in our future, to change how we've done church, not because of the way that we did church previously was bad or wrong. In fact, it was really, really good. In fact, my life, my family's life, my home life, I've said this before, have been radically impacted by what I've been able to experience over the last several decades in my life here at Blue Ridge. And I know that many of us, we could go around, we could talk about how our families' lives have been changed, our lives have been changed, our friends' life, our neighbors, our coworkers, because of what God has done. And so it's not that it's bad, but we know that, like, guys, the world we live in today is drastically different than it was just 25 years ago. And so if we want to continue to be effective in reaching new people, if we want to be effective in helping people follow Jesus, if we want to continue to be effective in reaching and making new disciples of Jesus who in turn make more disciples, then we must adjust and change. Guys, the method doesn't change, the method, we're not talking about, the message changing. It's the method. We're not talking about the function of the church that's been there since the church was birthed 2,000 years ago. That function of the church, it's not supposed to change, but the form that it takes in every season evolves and changes with time. In fact, we've been saying that we're gonna discover this future together. Because as we've been seeing, you guys will see it, you guys in this passage in Acts chapter 2, you guys, we're familiar with this passage. We've read it. It was in the bumper that we just saw. It says, in the last days, God says, this is Peter talking on the day of Pentecost when the church is launching. And he's speaking specifically about that day and the time in which we live. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in those days and they will prophesy. And we believe that it's as God is speaking to his church, not his church all, like we're gathered right now, but individually and corporately. And his spirit is prompting these dreams, these visions of what could be. You guys, gone are the times when we can reach everyone with a one-size-fits-all kind of model. Our world has moved beyond that. It's too segregated, it's too small, or it's gotten into these smaller pockets because of the internet and social media and all those types of things that are good and we all know the downside, but that have very upside. But guys, everybody finds their pocket, their tribe they belong in, and to think that we can do one thing that's gonna reach, or just a couple of things that are gonna reach who God is inviting us to reach, we'd be fooling ourselves. So he's inviting us to dream and have visions of what could be, to use who I am and how he's gifted me, and who you are and how he's gifted you, your life experience, your family of origin, to become the church. And as we become the church collectively together, we believe God will show us the future that he has for us as we discover it together. And so it's been so encouraging to hear the stories. In fact, what we want to do today is to continue telling the stories of God moving and birthing dreams and visions in people. You'll remember back to A few months ago, if you've been walking along this journey with us, we showed the Tampa Underground video and documentary, and it wasn't to say, guys, this is the kind of church we're gonna become. It was just to show a picture of a church doing it differently, of a church that is allowing the dreams and the visions of the whole of the community to inform who they are becoming as a church. And then a couple months ago, we brought up some Blue Ridgers who were launching out to start this church plant called Surrender Grounds Community Church in Appomattox. And here it was, we weren't saying that everybody needs to go out and start church plants like they're doing this. We're saying that, no, here's a group of people that God's birthing a dream and a vision and to reach their community, to reach the people that they may be willing as Blue Ridgers to drive, 30, 45 minutes from their community, but their friends, their family, their neighbors probably weren't. And so they've been launching this community, and that was their dream and vision. About 5 weeks ago, when I was gone, Steve and Andrew stood up on the stage and introduced to us the Isaiah House and Isaiah 117 House and Anxious for Nothing. These dreams and visions have been birthed in Blue Ridgers to reach out to some of the most vulnerable, most underserved people in our surrounding communities. And again, we weren't saying that everybody needs to go out and start a nonprofit like them. We were saying, here is a picture of a group of people that are saying, you know what? God, what do you want to do through me? What do you want to birth in me? What's the dream or the vision that you have for me? And so today, I want to share 3 more stories with you of people that are living this out. People that have said yes, and that God is birthing these dreams and visions. And here's what I hope you guys will see today. 1, we want to celebrate it. We want to celebrate the movement of God in and around us. 2, I want you to see, and I hope what we'll see together is the variety. To stop putting God in a box and say he could never work through me in this way because I don't have X, Y, and Z, because I'm not the type that can stand up on a stage and speak in front of people, because I don't have a voice that can sing, or whatever else, other things it may be, that we would be able to see the variety of ways in which God is birthing new things. And lastly, what I hope for us to see today is I hope for us to be actually willing to ask today. God, would you just show me why you have me here? Like, what's the one thing you have for me as I listen to these stories that will help me take my next step in discipleship making, in helping make followers of Jesus, maybe even take my next step in following Jesus? I'm excited. I'm genuinely encouraged. The glimpses we're getting of God beginning to birth these new dreams and visions so that together and collectively we can step into the future that God has for us. So before I invite Talita and Sarah to come up and share, would you pray with me? Jesus, I pray right now as your church hears stories of what you're doing, I pray that you would continue to inspire and birth in us new things. In fact, right now, Jesus, I just pray that I want to invite those of you who are listening to me pray right now who really want to hear from God. And don't just do this because I'm asking you to do it, because you really desire to hear from God. To open up your hands as just a symbol. If we really want to hear from God this morning, to open up our hands as a symbol of saying, God, would you give me something? Would you fill this open hand, metaphorically, with something from you that I need? A name, a face, a next step. Would you fill this with something from the stories I'm gonna hear today? Jesus, thank you for the movement of your Spirit in and through your church. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Welcome, Talita and Sarah.
Hello, my name is Talita Dantas. I'm originally from Brazil, and I have been with Blue Ridge since 2012.
Hi, I'm Sarah LaFrance. I've been living in Virginia my whole life and just started Blue Ridge in May of 2020.
So this is our story on how God started with Glory Girls. Everything started last December when my oldest daughter attended a youth group event here at Blue Ridge. Due to COVID restrictions, the event made her feel disconnected from her friends because of the distancing and mask mandate. My immediate reaction was, I need to do something. The vision wasn't there yet, just a feeling that I needed to act in a way to help my daughter grow closer to God and not allow this bad experience to define her relationship towards Him.
In January, our families vacationed together to celebrate Talita and Tim's anniversary. Talita shared with me what happened to her daughter, and I knew that God was leading me to do something. During our trip, we drove by a very poor village where the children looked so hopeless. And we thought maybe God wants us to do something here overseas. But as we started praying for guidance, God said, they're in your home, in your neighborhood, they're all around you. Talita and I both work, and our schedules can be very unpredictable. So time was a big issue. Our kids are involved in sports, and that was challenging to find a free night to serve in any way.
In April, Pastor Jeremy showed the micro-church video. That Sunday, I realized that the right time wasn't going to happen if I didn't make the time for it. Right after the service, we decided to start our small group that same week. We challenged our daughters to invite girls from their class that would be interested in participating on a Bible study. Our girls invited their friends from Forest Middle School. Majority of them had never been to my house before, and due to COVID, we weren't sure how the parents would respond to this invitation. God brought more people than we expected. On our first week, there were 18 girls. We played games, we shared a meal, and used a book called Glory Girls as a study guide. The girls shared and asked questions, and afterwards we prayed for one another. The first night, all of the girls were so excited, especially my daughters, for hosting this event at our house. During our second meeting, I felt led to share the plan of salvation with them and not to assume that every girl there knew how to accept Jesus in their hearts. That night, one of the girls gave her life to Christ. I was not expecting anyone to accept Jesus that night. I thought I was just planting a seed. But God does the unexpected, and I'm grateful for that. As we got to know them better, we saw how each girl came from a different belief system. We had Catholic, atheist, and Christian girls, but one thing they all had in common, which was that they were all open to learn more about Jesus. One thing that stand out during our study with the book was that the book used the story of Moses to teach our girls on how to hear God's voice. Just as Moses felt incapable and unequipped to be used by God, the same way Sarah and I felt right before we committed ourselves to this new group.
Over the next 8 weeks, parents offered to buy dinner for the group. Several families started attending Blue Ridge. We saw the girls' enthusiasm grow and their excitement to come back each week. The community was built and more girls started showing up. By the end of the study, we had 22 girls showing up during COVID. We are planning to meet this fall for a new Bible study. Right now, we are praying that God will lead us in a direction that we can listen and follow the plan that He already has for us. Our dream is to be used by God with what we have for whatever amount of time He calls us to help these girls grow in their faith through an organic relationship with God. Will you join us in praying that God's dream and vision for these girls and their families comes true? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So I guess our fostering journey starts before we're married, before him. And how it started for me was I knew some women who were unmarried but had found out they were pregnant. So that's kind of a scary time. And so I just invited them to come stay with me to kind of refocus them away from the streets and drugs and stuff. And then we would talk about Jesus and where he was and where they were at with him. One mom really needed help with her baby. She was 4 months old and she was homeless, living in like a drug house, and her goal was like to get a job. And so she asked if I would take the baby. So that kind of got the ball rolling for me to be like, okay, I should probably make this official and go through DSS and not just like have someone's kid randomly. And so I guess in 2018, I went through all the classes for fostering as a single woman. Then I met John Marc.
Well, I grew up in a missionary home. My parents were Bible smugglers into Eastern Europe. And so when I came to the States, I watched my brother foster and adopt 5 children. And I always felt that would be part of my life. And then a couple years down the road, I find myself a single dad with 2 kids in a house with an extra bedroom. And I kept thinking, I could foster. But there's a lot of stigma about men not being able to raise kids on their own. And so I wasn't sure how it would look for a single guy to go through the fostering process and get approved. So I had met Ashley, but we hadn't really talked much. And I'd heard from Crystal George that she had just been approved to be a foster parent, was still waiting for her first placement. So I reached out to her and just to find out what the process was like for a single person. And then we started dating through the communications. And I came alongside her and helped out as much as I could while we were dating. We moved right from dating into a 6-person household as soon as we were married. So it was nice because we both knew what we were getting into before we started. It wasn't something that just she wanted to do, but I was also interested in it as well.
A lot of people will ask, why did you get involved in fostering and stuff? And I think the answer to that for a lot of people is the kids are great. And the kids are great sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. But I think for me, honestly, when I first started, it was taking in the moms. It was just an easy yes to I have, 2 extra bedrooms. I have a bed. Come and sleep in my home. I think that was easy.
And when we have some parents they've already had children in the system, mm-hmm. and we've had them, and then they've actually requested that we take the other children when they find out they're pregnant. And so that shows a lot of trust that they have in mm-hmm. us. And we hope that by continuing to have them attached to their kids and have a support system outside of just what the social services offered, might be a lifeline for them. It might be a way for them to turn their lives around and stop this cycle of abuse and neglect and sin. Yeah.
My first placement with the 3 kiddos, I really, really loved this mom. She did not really, really love me at first. I remember walking into the first visitation, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna love her. And so I walked in, and she was sitting there and arms crossed, completely closed off to me. And I was like, hey, oh my gosh, your boys look just like you. I was like, they are beautiful. And I just bent down to hug her, and I think she was not expecting that. And she kind of hugged me back, but we would start texting and talking about how she was doing, what she needed support with. And a lot of times it's super practical, go to this appointment, get a job, find adequate housing. So those are things that I can help with. I can help mom find those things. And then eventually those boys got to go back home to their mom, which was awesome, and also really sad for me. But I saw her, I don't know, fairly recently, I guess. And she ran over to me. She's like, Ashley, and just gave me the biggest hug. And she was just thanking me for everything that I'd done. And she was like, I'm just so grateful, and all that. So just a really cool moment to know that that God worked through me. And she may think it was me, but it was absolutely Jesus.
For as long as I can remember, I worked hard to hide my faith and only talk about my love for Jesus inside the church walls. But a few years ago, God began to give me a dream and a vision for connecting with women to share the gospel. My name is Joyce Perry, and this is my story. I was born in the Philippines and came to the United States when I was 12 years old. I started middle school in LA. I was a pastor's kid. I remember trying so hard to meet friends. When kids asked me what my dad did for a living, I told them that he was a pastor. From there, I was severely picked on and bullied to a point where I hid my faith from people for self-protection and acceptance. That began my journey of hiding my faith, and I carried this throughout my adult life. A few years ago, Blue Ridge had a series on PRESS, which stands for P, prayer, R, relationship, E, evangelism, S, serving, and S, scripture. The letter E for evangelism hit me hard, and I was so convicted. The thought of evangelism scared me. I ignored it for a while and told myself that I was already doing my part to move people closer to God, and I don't have to be the one to help them cross the line to say yes to Jesus. My husband and I decided to attend Encounter, which is the study of the book of John. We were reading John chapter 12, where Jesus performed many miracles, including healing a blind man and raising Lazarus from the dead. Then we read verse 43, and it said, "For they loved human praise more than praise from God." It was like God's word just swallowed my face and my heart, and the world stopped for a few seconds. Tears just rolled down my cheeks, and I heard God saying to me, "Joyce, why do you continue to be ashamed of me? Have I not shown you how much I love you over and over again? What about all those moments that I've rescued you?" That night, I put my stake in the ground and declared, I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back, which meant to follow Jesus with all of me, and not just in the church building, but everywhere I go. I began to pray that God would lead me to someone that would help me get a backbone, someone that would help me get over my fear of rejection and fear of being ridiculed. I pleaded with God to coach me and teach me how to be a master at invitation. I wanted to learn how to be confident in inviting people so that I can invite them to church and ultimately invite them to accept Jesus. God was planting a dream inside me to share the gospel. Then I met a Mary Kay director whose #1 spiritual gift is the gift of evangelism. I also discovered that Mary Kay's priorities were God first, family second, and career third. God began to show me a vision of how I could love women and share Jesus with them. I remember having a conversation with him and saying, "Really, Mary Kay? Are you kidding me?" I was scared to death because I didn't feel equipped to do this. Plus, I wasn't really a makeup girl. I was a computer science nerd, and I still am. In addition, I didn't like salespeople. If you invited me to a Tupperware party or Pampered Chef, I would come to your party and buy a lot to support you. But don't you dare ask me to host a party for you, because I dreaded the thought of inviting people and being rejected and being judged. Mary Kay was the last thing that I expected I would be saying yes to as an act of obedience to God. I remembered crying every night. I was so scared of calling people. I was so scared of the no's. I was so scared of being ghosted and avoided, but I remained on my knees in prayer and I fasted. And to help me get over my fear, I decided to start every meeting and facial appointment with prayer. And within 9 months, I became a sales director, and God impressed in my heart to name our Mary Kay team with scripture, Esther 4:14. As a brand new team, I modeled our priority of God first and started a monthly prayer huddle. Pretty soon, I was building relationships and praying with strangers that haven't been to church for a long time or ever. I was praying with broken moms, single moms, working moms, moms who were depleted in marriages that were struggling. In my studio, God was bringing me lost people to give facials and to share Jesus. I've had the opportunity to pray for Muslims and people from the LGBT community. And during this pandemic season, we've led several people to Jesus, invited people to church, took communion together, and more recently had our very first baptism. As I wrap up, I want to read this verse, which is our team name, Esther 4:14. It says, "For if you remain silent, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." For me, this means I no longer want to remain silent. I don't want to miss being called on by God. God says we are royalty and we are called for such a time as this. So thank you to my Esther 4:14 ladies and to all who have supported us. This has been a journey beyond what I could have imagined or asked for. And I give all the praise and all the glory to Jesus. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you today.
Can we just celebrate God for what he's doing? We want to be a place that celebrates the stories of God moving among his people. I want you guys to see just a few things that I just want to make sure we see and understand the power of these images. Notice, none of these people today were religious professionals. In fact, none of them that we've highlighted as we go through these dreams and visions, they're not the pastors being paid to do ministry. These aren't your standard missionaries that maybe you saw growing up going to church or going to church services. These are men and women who are going out there working their 40 hours. They have their family. They live in the real world. They live in these places outside of that Christian bubble. And yet they're willing to say, Jesus, what do you want to do? What is it you may begin to do in me and through me? Whether it's with their work, it's with their home, it's in their neighborhood, it's even, like Joyce said, with Mary Kay. What do you want to do in me? How do you want to use my story, where you have me? What do you want to birth inside of me that's gonna help reach someone that may never show up here? And help take them on a journey of not just a belief, not just a stepping into faith, or even just being baptized, but how do you want me to walk alongside them to help teach them to become a disciple, a follower of Jesus, who is in turn helping other people follow Jesus. We want to celebrate this, but it's not just to celebrate it. We want to challenge ourselves as we hear these stories. God, what for me, when Israel crossed over, we just came out of the series, The Land Between, when God took them out of this land between into the promised land, he split the Jordan Sea in two, just like he did the Red Sea. And as he walked across, you know the first thing he had them do? He had one person from each tribe grab a stone that was in the middle of that river. And when they got to the other side, went into this land that God was giving them, he said, I want you to stack up these stones, because here's what I want to happen. There's gonna be this big pile of 12 stones. And I know how quickly you'll forget my faithfulness to you, the way I've worked and what I've done. And so here's what I want you to do. That you're gonna be walking through this land and your kids are gonna come across, the next generation's gonna come across, and they're gonna see those stones stacked up, and they're gonna ask, why are these stones there? And I want you to tell them the story of my faithfulness directed towards you. So we want to be a place that tells stories. We want to be a place that celebrates God's movement. We want to come back to him and say thank you. But more than that, the whole point of why he was saying that is so that next generation would have the faith to take their step. Whatever God was calling that next generation to do, to step into the role of God. Okay, this is what you're inviting me to do next, that they would have a picture of how God had been faithful to them. Guys, that's the kind of faith we want to have here. We want to celebrate, we want to applaud, we want to get teary-eyed over, we want to celebrate all that we've seen happen, but we want to be people that take that celebration and move it to action. We want to be the type of people that take what we're seeing in here and live it out there. That ask God, if you can do that in them, what do you want to do in me? What was he speaking to you? If you opened up your hands and said, God, would you speak to me? What did he speak to you? Maybe for you, it was like Talita and Sarah's, like, our schedules are just too busy. I know that. And And nothing's ever gonna change unless I just begin to do it. Maybe like them, it was a dissatisfaction with what you saw happening in the church during COVID. And God is stirring that holy discontent in you because he's saying, I want you to respond. I want you to birth something. This is that dream or the vision I've given you. Maybe it's just simply with your neighborhood. Maybe you looked at these other examples. You're like, God, I'm never gonna go plant a quote unquote big church. I'm never gonna be the one that starts a nonprofit. And he's saying, yeah, but would you start with the kids or that person? That elderly neighbor? Would you open up your backyard? Maybe it's like the Littles. As they were talking about their foster care, maybe their foster care journey, maybe God has been preparing you with the story he's given you to get your family of origin because he's setting up a future he has for you. And that dream or vision that he wants to birth. Maybe it's something as simple as a next step is that empty bed or that open space or that extra resource that you know you have that other people are lacking. Maybe like Joyce, it's your work. It's something that could seem as superficial as makeup. It's a people group. It's a place you never thought you would find yourself. And he's just saying, will you trust me with the next step? What is that next step? Let's not just be a people that applaud and celebrate. We want to do that. We want to be inspired, but can we be the generation that says, I'm going to listen to this, I'm going to be inspired of it, and then I'm going to ask you, God, what is it you have for me next? What's that next step you want me to take? What's that dream or vision? I may not have it all yet, but what's a step that could lead towards that? So as we finish up, we're gonna watch one more video of a group of people who are in all sorts of different places when it comes to dreams and visions, but all of them that are asking and looking and praying, God, would you show me what you have for me next? Jesus, would you speak as we wrap up this service?
As we've been talking about dreams and visions over the last couple months, I've been wrestling with, am I just supposed to go find something new to do? Or like, can these old dreams and visions, things that I've been passionate about for a long time, do I just need to pour back into those things? I love coming alongside other couples and helping them understand what God says about marriage. And hopefully come this fall, maybe we'll have opportunities to meet together as a group and meet couples that I would not get to know otherwise.
I'm excited that God has me on the journey of, just already being in a ministry that was serving people that needed discipleship. We started this Friday morning thing. Just come out Friday morning, 9 to 11. Let's get to know each other. I get to be a doer of the word. I get to be with people who want to learn how to be a doer of the word. And, God's called me on it, and I'm excited for the next yes.
God, in January of 2020, gave me the idea to start a travel business. God gave me the idea in service to seek out those that are financially unable to visit family and friends. And I think that he wants me to use my travel business as a catalyst for that.
So I think the thing I'm most excited about with the dreams and visions thing is the freedom to step away from having to be Sunday-centric and to be able to love others. And more specifically, I think with my family. I've got 3 kids and a wife. And so I hate to say this because my kids are sitting out in the audience. But I think I've identified that just the distortion that I was believing that I have to be involved in something big, like a program or something, and that my family doesn't count. That if I'm just discipling my kids, that's not good enough. The Spirit just began to reveal, Mark, you've got a family and they're a priority. So this is your dream and vision. So again, I don't have a clue what that looks like. I just know that in my everyday life, I want to love others. I want to love my kids, my wife specifically, and just be an example of what Jesus is. And hopefully that comes to fruition.
So the dream and vision I've had, I believe God has shown me how he can use me outside the four walls of this church. It always kind of bothered me a little bit that I'm leaving my community and coming over here, and I've grown so much here at Blue Ridge. But I'm like, what can I do in my geographical area? I've been praying for a long time about being able to impact my community, which is about 20 minutes away in Alta Vista, and he's opened up some opportunities. He's opened up an opportunity to mentor and disciple at a veteran center that's opening up down there. And they're going to be helping out with veterans with PTSD and substance abuse issues. And, I feel like that's how God showed me that I can show them Jesus,
I think God is teaching me that I can use my platform. There's a lot of opportunities for me to be vulnerable and open with people, and then I'm able to connect with them in that way. I don't necessarily have a dream and vision, but God has been teaching me in all of this that vulnerability is like the key to making relationships, and relationships are the key to making disciples to make other disciples. And so I've just been learning how being open with your community and being vulnerable and being honest about where you're at is just like really healing.
I'm really excited that God has called me to enter into the workplace as a mission field. We've formed a little workers worship team at work, and there's 3 of us that we get together every Monday morning before work starts, and the goal being that hopefully we're reaching people who aren't otherwise churched, so to speak, and just being available to talk and go through life with those folks. It's been a blessing for the team, and we're really excited to see where this goes.
These are the days that we prayed for. A stirring of faith has begun. And I've seen so much, still I'm certain that the best has not yet come. 'Cause Jesus, you're not done with me. You're doing a new thing. You're doing a new thing. Stand and sing with us. And I see a wave of revival preceded by justice and praise. The young and the old run to Jesus. Oh, and all the sins that held us back are laid to waste. 'Cause Jesus, you're not done with me. doing a new thing.
So let's not overcomplicate this. We can get caught in the how is this gonna work? When will I have the time? What does this mean for me? What exactly are we talking? Dreams and visions. What's just your next yes? What's the next yes that God is asking you to live out? Let's go out this week and live out that next yes. And who knows? Who knows what Jesus might invite us into? Jesus, I pray that we would have the faith to just say yes to that next thing, no matter how big, small, insignificant, scary,